David in Florida, thank you for holding, sir. We've had Von Notaus on, Ron Paul, major presidential contender, and, of course, Colonel Schaefer. Quite a transmission today.
Yes, it is. Mr. Jones, I'm calling in because this morning I was listening to 106.5 FM out of Mobile, Alabama, and their guest talked about how, just like you said, Rick Perry campaigned for Al Gore, and that also something new about how it just came out that he was, I guess, supporting Nancy Pelosi.
Well, it's worse than that. Yes, of course, her as well. Back in even her San Francisco days, I did see a report on that. But the big one that I just raised with Ron Paul was Hillary Care. He actually gave speeches, wrote letters, went public. Well, as agriculture commissioner at the time, the Daily Caller actually broke this. I didn't even know this. I mean, I knew he was a hardcore global warming supporter of Al Gore, presidential manager in Texas, didn't become a Republican until 90, but then was, in some reports, somewhat anti-gun, pro-open border. Here's an example of Rick Perry. He got an award 5 years ago. I have it on video in not Fall of the Republic, that's another film, Battle for the Republic. That's a 16-minute mini documentary extra on the hind end of Endgame. And, of course, Endgame ends with Rick Perry going to Bilderberg and us saying he's going to run for president and how he's a globalist and look out. Again, that film's been out almost 4 years now, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about being evergreen. And Vicente Fox gave him an award for in-state tuition for illegals, something somebody from Oklahoma or Tennessee or Mississippi, Louisiana, bordering state wouldn't even get, and going along with sanctuary cities. So then this year in the legislature, getting ready to run for president, he then had his people introduce ending sanctuary city laws and then killing it himself behind the scenes, just like TSA. Now that is snake-like. And so, yes, here's the article. Rick Perry, camp defends 1993 Hillary Care praise. And they've come out and said that, yes, we did support Hillary. And it's got links to his letters and the speeches and all of it. So a big Hillary Clinton supporter. Remember 93 with Rush Limbaugh saying this is the greatest evil ever and everything? Meanwhile, Rick Perry was running around supporting it, but Rush Limbaugh endorses him. But you'll vote for Mitt Romney instead. Oh, Obamacare author. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than these two.
Jones, also, what I'm really wanting to call about is, so I called in, and I said how that guest, his information was factual, and that how Rick Perry, it was a globalist agenda that he's supposed to be a fake Ron Paul, and it's the whole plan to push Paul aside. And so I said, that hopefully the callers would hear, or listeners would hear that, they need to learn who pulls the strings, and that because, this agenda, I said corporate fascist, it threatens our U.S. sovereignty. But anyway, so the last thing I want to say is a caller called in after me, and I hope you can get this to Ron Paul. He says he likes a few things Ron Paul talks about and believes in, but he said that he feels it's the supporters of Ron Paul is the reason why it turns people off on Paul's message, because they call and speak about how there is a global conspiracy. And that was his word, conspiracy. But here's
no. They always say that. They always try to attack Paul by the awake American people. There is a global government. It's in the open now, calling for global carbon taxes and VAT. And these mainline conservatives have been fed on a steady diet of fake conservatism and fake constitutionalism where they want I've heard them. I don't care if he supports Hillary. I love Rick Perry. He's the new Ronald Reagan. They feel like they've bought into a winner. And so, they're telling him he's going to win? Well, I'm going to support him. I think if anything makes news, and I almost don't want it to, of the Ron Paul interview was his statement about, well, Rick Perry might just walk away with it. Ron Paul really can win, but Paul sees how they're just putting him out there. And listen, I've been to Republican events before, and when I was trying to support Pat Buchanan back in the mid-'90s, I guess even in the early 90s, and some of these people, they're like weird sycophants who think Republican politicians are like rock stars, and they just grovel around and think it's cool to compromise. Well, they've compromised this country right into a rat hole. I appreciate your call, David. I mean, that's what they've done. And they like it that he supported Hillary. They like it that they support carbon taxes. Mitt Romney. They like it that he worked for Al Gore. They think that's cute. They like to get hurt. They like to fail. They like to sycophant around. And that's why Ron Paul was like almost laughing. He's like, well, if that's who they want, okay. I mean, he knows where this country's going. It's like, okay. Because Ron Paul knows in the end, everything has talked about is already coming true, and the rest of it's going to come true. Then it's like, okay, you want to run off the side of a cliff. I mean, Thomas in California, welcome.
Yes, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
I called, I actually sent you an article from Alternet and another one from Reader-Supported News. They both said one was exposing the Ron Paul progressives can't support, and the other one said treat Ron Paul with extreme caution. And the last sentence of the article said, is there a progressive willing to join that fold? And then my response to that was, yes, whether you like it or not, Ron Paul is the single candidate willing to confront those entities destroying our country like the Fed, the military-industrial complex, and the disastrous trade issues, etc. And then every president who took on the banks before had been assassinated, like Kennedy, Lincoln, Jackson, Garfield, and that we are under attack with a very dark element within our government, and at least 2 or 3 elements outside of our government that have global domination in their sights, and that Obama has turned out to be our worst enemy and some kind of Trojan horse for the GOP, and that basically I just went on to cite my arguments about Ron Paul, but within that, within the other responses, there's at least 80% of progressives and liberals that were supporting Ron Paul in the responses.
Well, see, so, that's because there's probably 50 different types of, quote, progressives. There's the communist, globalist, corporatist, controlling. People go, corporatist, communist. Yeah, they create it to control people. George Soros type that gives that term a bad name. You can call me a classical liberal. That's called an extreme right-winger today. All these terms mean nothing. The point is, yes, in national polls, they've had scores of them. Ron Paul beats Obama. That's one of the questions I didn't have time to get to. More than any other GOP candidate. And it's because a lot of people that don't even totally agree with all of his policies and ideas, because they're ignorant, they still like the fact that he does what he says he'll do and is a principled person. So, yes, I've seen that on the, quote, liberal or progressive websites, that they like Ron Paul. He really will end the wars. He really will try to, you know, I mean, everybody realizes now this government doesn't work for us. And so even a lot of liberals are now out buying guns. They're starting to get more into reality. But again, when they thought they were about to win something, they supported Obama and didn't look at who backed him. It's the same thing with conservatives. Oh, we're about to beat Obama with Rick Perry, not looking at what they're about to get. Guy bought and paid for by the same interest. I mean, it's so elementary. And those people, you know, it's like Tom Hartman. When I was attacking Bush, he would have me on his show and come on this one and understood I was outside the left-right paradigm. Soon as Obama gets in, starts attacking me, I go on his TV show. He makes fun of me and says extreme right-winger. And I go, Tom, you know, these terms mean nothing. I want to rule of law and a constitution. And he just was hateful about it and tried to make stuff up. And it's like, man, these are political operatives for the Democrats and the Republicans. And look, it sounds good to have big government to help people, but it'll never get delivered because the special interest will steal it. That's the nature of man. It's why it doesn't work. That's why we need a constitutional republic. I don't agree with anarchists who say no government. But look, most of these modern people cannot stand up to the founders. That's why they attack the founders, because the system is scared of them. You were a rock star then if you could use bigger words, have better arguments, better information, better philosophy, and could speak more languages and could invent more things. Most of the founding fathers were inventors, you know, discovering how to channel electricity and stuff. I mean, back then it was about really being smart. Those were the rock stars then. So if we honored that today, we would be a different society and kids would want to be the rock star inventor. Now they know how to sell us somebody that dribbles a ball or hits a golf ball as the heroes, and so our society's falling apart. The globalists know how to craft and control reality. But again, the fact that Ron Paul really is the front runner, they've got a few fake polls showing Rick Perry is #1, shows why the system's so scared. It's just amazing to even get Ron Paul on the show, and I appreciate your call. Anything else, Thomas?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate your call. Look, when you're talking to a mainline conservative idiot or a mainline liberal idiot, you got to go, listen, the same big banks are financing both the Obama and his main Republican challengers. The whole system's against Ron Paul. Come on. I mean, you're not that stupid. If you like the way things are going, keep voting for Rick Perry or Barack Obama. I mean, this is elementary. What is wrong with people? But they've been taught since they were little kids in front of the TV in diapers that it's Coke, Pepsi, Ford, Chevy. And then they pick what the big winner is. You get to choose from one of these two. Oh, you don't want this one, a doctor with gray hair. Oh, look, it's Mitt Romney, Kendall. Oh, it's Obama. It's all a gimmick. The gimmicks are going to kill us. Okay, it's going to be reality that saves us. Jay and Mass, thanks for holding.
Hey, Alex, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Hey, I've been a long-term listener. I just got finally got my PrisonPlanet.tv subscription. I talk about you with my friends all the time, and on air I have a Christian radio show. And I had a question about the New World Order. I have conversations with friends, and they say that there's no point in fighting the New World Order because, as a Christian, read the New Testament. It says that there's going to be, it's prophesied in the New Testament that there's going to be a world government, and that the satanic system, the Antichrist, is going to rise up. Might as well just let it happen because and I'm like, what? Like, I just wondered what your opinion was on that.
Well, that's something that I talk a lot about. Even if Armageddon is preparing to take place, it is our responsibility to aggressively fight evil and corruption. And, God will say, I don't know you. I mean, if you're a Christian and follow that system, then how can you go along with it? How can so many mainline Christians make fun of Ron Paul talking about global government when that's what the Bible teaches? See, it's a schizophrenic denial. Now, the truth is that if you really read the Bible, and it's clear, I don't want to get into arguments about it, it says that after Christ returns, the angel ties up the devil, throws him in the pit, Christ reigns for 1,000 years. It's that when Christ returns, the dead rise and join him. That's there. There isn't a rapture before all of this. So it's this ultimate cop-out. And Germans thought they were going to be raptured under Hitler. Christians under Pol Pot, Chinese always think they're going to be raptured. Did people get raptured? The disciples getting crucified and hung upside down and boiled in oil? No. See, this is a giant cop-out and was sold. But for the secular folks, they sell 2012. They say, in 2000, Planet X is coming, and then 2003, and then 2006, and I get emails. I know that July 15th of this year, you're going to be in a bunker in your government. You know that Planet Zupel or something's coming. And then it's Elenin or something, comment. And I go look at the track of it, and it's a little bitty comment, no big deal. It's just constant. And then as soon as Elenin doesn't kill us in October, then it'll be a new comment. Just like Thundar the Barbarian on TV for kids in the 80s was pre-programming them. And all these end-of-the-world Al Gore movies, don't pay him carbon taxes, all the cities are destroyed by rising water. If the psychological warfare chiefs learned that if you teach people it's the end of the world, they're going to lay down and take it. Why did the Aztecs, even though they outnumbered the Spanish conservatively 500-1 there in Mexico City, where their big temple complex was, I mean, a couple hundred Spaniards show up with a couple cannons, and they had a prophecy about the end of the world and a metal man coming. And so the guys in metal armor showed up, and they just went crazy and started running off cliffs and gave up and said, "You're God," and fell down in front of them. For a while, then figured out they weren't God, and, by then the disease had spread, the smallpox, and wiped most of them out. But Again, that's all it is. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They got it for secular people. They got it for Christians. So you're just like, why should I care? It's the end of the world anyways. Then you sit out of the game of life. It's a cop-out. It's a joke. It's a game.